What's up, guys? This is going to be the first part video in a larger React series that I'm going to be creating. So in this video, we're just going to go over basic React installation and really just how to get started with a new React project. So let's get into it. So the first thing you're going to need is obviously a code editor. For this, I'm using VS Code. To make it easier for you, I'd recommend following along with VS Code. It really is kind of one of the best code editors on the market, especially because of all the extensions you can get and all the other features. But yeah, I definitely recommend VS Code. When you do install it, it's gonna look a little different than mine because of the theme that I have on, but all the tabs and stuff should be the exact same. So once you have that up and running and installed, the first thing you're gonna want to do is open up the integrated terminal. And so once you've got this open, I'm gonna let it load up. Yeah. So once you got this loaded up and ready, the first thing you're gonna want to do is get a React project started. So if we go over to the React documentation over here, their first steps for getting started include going through a command line command to kind of scaffold a project. So we can go down here to create a new React app. And so there's multiple ways to add React apps. But one of the best ways is by using Create React App. It kind of makes everything really simple. And it makes it really easy to get up and running fast with React. So the command you're supposed to use is npx create React app, and then this would be the name of your app. So npx create React app. Oh, yeah, create React app. And then whatever the name you want of your app to be. There are a couple of rules for naming your app. You can't have any uppercases. I'm pretty sure you can't have underscores. And maybe numbers. I'm not 100% sure about this, but if you ever if you're ever wondering if you can have a name or you can't, just type in the command and write whatever name you want. And if there's a problem, the command line interface will kind of like let you know about the problem, and so then you can track it. So we're just gonna call this we're just gonna call this my app actually. I'm just gonna test app, and we're gonna run it. And so this can take a few minutes. Sometimes it's really fast. It really just depends on your Wi-Fi. But it's just gonna go ahead and find a bunch of directories. Find a bunch of files for your React app. It's gonna configure Webpack and do all those things. But yeah. So I'm just gonna cut to when the installation is complete. Okay, so my installation just finished, and it did take about 2 to 3 minutes, and really that is just because, Create React App is really, doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes, configuring Webpack, getting all the files in place. So, it is gonna take some time. So just so you're not like kind of surprised if it takes a little long. But yeah, you know that it's kind of worked out when it says the happy hacking and it gives you the CD My App and yarn start or npm start if you're using the package manager. So with right here next to the CD, it should have your app name. I used my app, my dash app, but it should be whatever you used. So currently I have this folder named Getting Started with React, and so it just created a new folder for the project inside. So the first thing I'll do is, of course, just go inside that folder by using the cd command. So cd my app, and so now I'm inside that directory. And so before we go any further, I just want to go through the directory and kind of show you around how everything's working. So first, just like any basic Node project with Node modules and dependencies, it has a Node modules folder which kind of has all your dependencies. This is basically something you're never ever going to touch. It's kind of just for Webpack to know what your dependencies are and like how to use them. Then there's the package.json. Here it's going to have all your scripts. It's going to have all your dependencies, all that basic stuff. So yeah, so one of the most basic scripts is npm start. So when you type npm start, it's going to start your React app. Then we have a yarn.lock. So I'm using yarn. If you're using npm, you're gonna have a package.json.lock file or something along those lines. And yeah, it's kind of just, you're never gonna really need to poke around in this file either. But yeah. And then after that, we have the public and the source directory. So the public directory just kind of has the index.html file and some other stuff for like browser icons when you want to use progressive web apps. Really something you don't have to worry about now. I'll definitely dive into that later. But yeah, just main thing is index.html that it lives here. And so one more thing to note is that the place that where the all of your React code is rendered is right after this root. So React targets this ID of root div, and all of your React code is inside this div. Kind of how if you were to kind of document get element by ID in like vanilla JavaScript, and then append elements into there. After the public directory, we have the source directory, and in here there's going to be a bunch of files. So before I go through the files, there's a couple that Create React App kind of just puts in here that we don't really need. Some of them are like CSS files, which we're not going to really get into right now. I'm sure most of you guys know CSS, but we're just going to focus on basic React. Other ones are test.js files. This is kind of just because people really like to run tests on their code and kind of see how it's working and if it's working correctly. It's kind of just a way to speed up development, but not something important to worry about right now. So you're going to go ahead and delete the logo file, the CSS files for both of these, and the test file for the app.js, as well as the Web Vitals JS file and the setup test. And then there's also going to be some code we want to delete from these two. So first is the index.js. Just delete this import for index.css and this import for the Web Vitals. And also get rid of this React.strict mode tag. And also one more thing that you're probably going to notice, I do not use semicolons in my JavaScript code. It's just a personal preference. If you like to, you can go ahead and do so, but I'm personally just not a fan of it. And here we're going to get rid of both of these and just add an import React React. And I know what you guys are probably thinking, like, I don't know what this code does. Don't worry about it. This is just so I can show you how everything works later on. I don't expect you to understand any of this, but by the time we're done with this entire series, you'll definitely be able to you'll understand all this code. So don't even worry about it. Just add that line in. And so after you're done, you should have something that kind of looks like these two files as a source directory. So before I launch the web app, I kind of just want to go over how React deals with the rendering code and rendering kind of elements to the page. So it all starts off in the index.js file. This is kind of the entry point for React. And the two things that have to be imported in here are React, and it's done through these import statements instead of the require statements that are usual in JavaScript. It's done through these standard import statements. So you import React and you import React DOM. Now React DOM only needs to be imported in index.js. Actually, both of these only need to be imported in the index.js. But we import them into like components or different files that you're going to render as well, because they can help with adding other specific things from the React module. So here what we've imported is React and React DOM. We've also imported the app component, which is right here. And we imported from /app because it's in the same directory, so just /. We didn't need to add in the .js because React takes care of that. It knows that whenever you're referring to any file, it's just going to assume that it's .js. So if you have like a PNG you're trying to import, you need to write that .png. It's very important. So the most basic way that React code starts is through a React DOM.render. So as soon as a React page is loaded up, what happens is the React DOM.render runs, and it's basically a function that takes two arguments. The first argument is the component that you want to render, which is app in this case, and the second one is where you want to render it, and that would be root. So what we're doing here is we're getting the element, we're getting the root element, that we previously saw over here in the index.html file, and we're targeting it, and we're rendering the app component into it. So that's kind of what's going on. Also, another thing to kind of note, every time we import any any components, and we want to display them, they're always written with the self-closing tags, like HTML. So if we go into the app.js component here, we can see there's nothing inside this div. So let's say we wanted to make this a multiple line kind of deal. We just do that to add those return, closing, and opening tags. And so one important thing to note is that there are two types of components in React. There is a functional component and there is a class-based component. Functional components, are just like regular functions, and class-based components usually like class. Both have their pros and cons, and we will discuss that in a future video. But this is just really to get you started and to get you thinking about these type of things. So the way every component essentially works is you import React, you have your component, so in this case, a functional component or app, and between, in this area above the return, this is where you're kind of going to have all your app logic, all your JavaScript, and then after the return is where you're going to have all of your markup or HTML. In React, there is no HTML. Instead, what you're seeing right here, these two div tags, there's JSX, which is a kind of like a micro programming language. It's basically really similar to HTML, and most of the code is identical to HTML, but there are small differences that allow you to kind of add React code and logic from up here very easily into your JSX. Okay, and then so after the functional component, there is an export for the actual app component. So this exports the app component, and that allows you to import it over here. So I'm just going to start off by adding a basic h1 tag. Most of the tags, I'm pretty sure almost all of the tags you can find in HTML are going to be in JSX. If there's one you're curious about, you can really just search it up and you'll find out if it is. But I'd say most of them are. So we've added this hello tag, and now we're going to start off by running our app. So if you're using yarn, you can type in yarn start, and if you're using npm, you can type in npm start. I'm using yarn, so I'm just going to go ahead with the yarn start, and now it should load up. So what it's going to start to do is it's going to run this app on localhost 3000 for me, so port 3000. It might be different for you. It'll honestly pop up here probably. But if you have a web browser open like I do, it'll probably just open it up like it did right here automatically. So you can see it's saying starting development server. And if you hover over in if we, sorry, 1 second. There we go. So it's compiled successfully, and it's telling me where it is on my machine, how I can navigate to it in my web browser. If you want to test this out on your phone, maybe to get like a mobile view, and you're on the same Wi-Fi, then you can go to this address to kind of see your site. So here is our React app. It's rendered, and as you can see, there is our hello. So just as we had here, and so I think a pretty typical thing is to have hello world and whatever first technology you try out. So I'll just add another h1 tag here and just write world. And so as you just noticed, there's also hot reloading, so there's no need to reload the page yourself. It just does it automatically. So, yep, you have just created your very first React app. This is obviously the very first video in the series. I plan on making a lot more and kind of going through React in depth and helping you understand it. If you did enjoy the video, please leave a like and subscribe. If there's some other type of video or some other type of content you want to see, comment down below and let me know um what you'd like to see. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time. Peace.